In this lesson of How to Excel, we'll look at how to create a combined chart of bars and labels. Something that hopefully looks a bit like this. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a combination chart of bars with labels actually done in a table. In order to do this, we've taken some initial data that this is a good example of typical raw SPSS output that you get where there's a question about democracy levels basically in these different countries and how satisfied are you with the levels of democracy. In this case we have missing and refused and do not know that I've decided to take out. In this case all we've done is we've added them to 100 and we've made it just this country's not at all satisfied, not very satisfied, fairly satisfied. And then in order to further summarize this, what I've done is I've created two broad categories called not satisfied and satisfied. And I've quite simply, you can see the function here, that I have just added together all of the not satisfieds. And on the other hand, I've added together all of the satisfieds, and that will be those two columns, and we have these different levels. One of the things you might want to do here is you might want to copy. You can do that by doing Control-C or by right-clicking and saying copy, and then doing a paste special and go ahead and paste just the values rather than the formulae now that you've got them. That's what I would then copy and paste over into this area here, because this is where we're going to actually do our table. In this case, we have basically pre-sorted this. But we've made satisfied at the top rather than here at the bottom, so the highest level of satisfied is now at the top. Because we're going to be making our graphic here in Excel table itself, one of the first things that I would like to do is to actually change the background of these different cells. So here we're going to go to just our standard background fill, which is that. I've already bolded the headers and the different countries. But what we want to do is we want to include different charts alongside the bars here for not satisfied and satisfied. So I'm going to select just not satisfied for the time being. And you'll see that there on the home ribbon is something called conditional formatting. And this is the tab that we definitely want to do because there's a lot of fun things that you can do with this, including data bars. Now, it doesn't matter which one you actually select because we're going to fix that as we go along, but let's just do a solid fill, and we see that that now has different bars that go from 22 to 88. And I'm going to go ahead and select the same for satisfied, and do the same thing again. I'll just select red for fun. Alright, so now we have the basics in place. So one of the things that we might want to do with this is to actually change to make sure that these bars are on the same sort of scale, because right now that sort of shows a full bar at 78% and a full bar at 88% here. So why don't we go ahead and select that, and we can go to the conditional formatting button and manage rules here at the bottom. If you double click data bar, what we can do is instead of having it set it as an automatic, we can change it to a number, and the minimum is 0 is fine, and then the maximum we want as 1, which is effectively 100%. Now this says positive value, but actually the dissatisfied has sort of a negative connotation. So I'm going to select one of the kind of orangey reds from Afrobarometer's color palette. Also, instead of having this go from left to right, I'm going to go ahead and flip this to go from right to left. If we hit OK, and then OK on the rules, we see that that's actually changed that around. And what we need to do then is we need to select all of these again and move them, the labels, from the right side to the left side. For the satisfied, we're going to do a similar thing again. You can either select it, or I'm going to show you what happens when you hit the conditional formatting button, manage rules. If it's not selected, you see it doesn't actually appear. But that's because this only shows the formatting rules for current selection. What we can do is show it for this sheet, and now everything appears. And what we want to do is we want to edit this top one here again, and instead of having it automatic, we say number, and number, 0 again is correct, and 1 is the highest. Because this is a positive thing, I'm going to put this as that teal bluish color. Again, if we hit OK and OK, it automatically changes so that we have the blue going positive, the red going negative, and all the labels along the side for each one. What we can also do is if we want to insert this into a PowerPoint or a Word file, if you're on a Mac, you can hit Command-Shift-4, and that gives us the ability to take a screenshot of just part of the screen. And you've got your chart. If you're on a PC, you can hit Print Screen and then crop it in the Word file or the PowerPoint presentation itself. So the equivalent on a Mac is Command-Shift-3. And just to show you what this would look like, if we open Word and we actually then place our screenshot straight into Word, we see that that's too big at the moment. So I'm going to zoom in, and if you click on it, a picture format ribbon comes up, and we can select crop. And here we can just crop the image down to the chart that we want. Now, the more zoomed in that you are on your Excel, the higher resolution this will be in your Word file, so you won't have to make it bigger. In this case, I have not zoomed in very much, so that looks relatively small. We can maybe make that a bit bigger, and actually that's completely fine. Otherwise, you might need to do it again if you see that it is fuzzy. Another tip, because we're just doing this crop around it, is that we might actually want to make the cells around it that same sort of background color so that we have a little bit of leeway in terms of our copy and paste job. In fact, I'm just going to select all the cells because we're going to do the same for all of them and just say make that all that same background color. So that gives us a little bit more flexibility. And that is how you do a bar with labels.